Welcome to Morris Minor Restoration, part 43, I believe. Now, as you can see, my wipers work fantastically. And that is not what we're going to be covering today, but I'm just showing you that they do work very nicely. What I'm going to be covering is the ignition, because it died. This ignition right here, it just died on me. I mean, the switch went wrong. There's something, like, the springiness of the switch has gone wrong, to where it's like, you can move it anyway now. It is no longer usable. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how to unseize this key tumbler, and I'm just going to use this, because this was horrible. As you can see, there is a very large snowstorm happening right now. We're supposed to get somewhere between 18 to 24 inches, according to the news, of snow. Now, I was driving this car in the snow with the lights on, the wipers on, and the heater on. And the generator in the car, which is the original, I believe, took it very well. It was working very nicely. But then I came down here and I parked the car. And it didn't go any further, because I pulled it down here, and then I realized, hey, I should probably turn it around so I don't get stuck in the snow. Well, I should have realized that earlier, because when I tried to turn the car on, no ignition. It was just dead. So what I had to do is I had to put a jumper cable going from the positive terminal of the battery, which is on that side, all the way down to the end of the resistor, so I could get the ignition going, so I could turn the car around. And that was not fun, because I had no control over the ignition. So, I'm going to be redoing the ignition from this... Okay, sorry about that stop right there. I'm going to be redoing the ignition from this switch to this key. Now, I just hastily put this key in really quickly with 2 screws, and they're really easy to remove. So, I'm going to remove them and take the key and tumbler out and redo that. I'm going to actually make it so it turns and works. Okay, so I've removed the ignition tumbler from the car. There it is. Out of the car. Here are the screws that were holding it in. So now I have to take this into the basement, figure out some way to undo it, take it apart, see if I can rebuild it. If not, I'm going to have to be searching on the internet for another one, which I'm not sure how that's going to work out for me. But I have to find another one, so into the house where this is already apart. Okay, so I have the switch all blown apart. Here are pieces of it. Up there are pieces of it. There's the key, and the most important part of the whole thing, the Morris Minor keychain. Now, what we have to do is we have to make a key, because for some reason, I thought this was the original key, but it's very close to the same size, but it just does not work. So what I have to do is I have to make a key. Now, I'm going to show you how this works. So I had to pick this lock in order to get it out. I picked it with this tool here. Very good at picking locks. And here is the thing. Now, as you can see, there are little tumblers on there, like little slots. So those are the pins. And what you want to do in order for this thing to work, all the pins have to be flat. So if we take a random generic key, this is a Chrysler Corporation key, slam it in, you see 3 of them are actually up. There are 2 up to the same height, and then 1 that's slightly lower. I have all the measurements written down here, if you were interested in them. There's all my measurements. There they are. I'll move some of this stuff. There's my measurements, in case you were interested, which you probably are. So, with that done, I just measured it's all measured up with the veneer caliper, and removed it. Here's another key. This is a General Motors key. It's the same thing, but if we insert it, it's a little bit finicky, but if we do finally manage to do it, we can see, oh, I think I put it in. Oh, sorry. Let me put this in. Now it's in, and as you can see, these are perfectly flat. And another thing that you can see is just how good BMC was at using the same kind of metal. Because these tumblers, there are 2 brass ones looks like a steel one, a copper one, and another steel one. They use 3 different types of metal, which I have no idea why, but as you can see, there are clearly color differences. That one second to this brown, that dark brown one, that is clearly copper. These two are brass, and these silver ones look like steel. So, BMC was not too good at different metals. I mean, at the same metal, but they were incredibly good at different metals. But, oh wow, that's really in there. It's a finicky key, but it works. So, I'm going to put this all back together and mount it in the car. Okay, here's my tumbler all put back together, and I have my new key installed on the most important part of this whole thing. Now, what I'm going to do now is check the continuity. See, these 2 screws are actually the ignition, where the wires go in. As you can see, there are slots in the threaded places where these screws go. As you can see, there are slots in them. That's for you to just jam a wire into and tighten it up for the ignition. I'm going to test this out. Let me run over here into these drawers and get the continuity meter. This is a continuity checker. Basically, this checks to see if there is a connection between the 2 terminals on this. So, what I'm going to do is actually, I'm going to close them into the terminals using the screws. And then I'm going to put the key in and turn it. So, let's do that. Okay, I have them in. For some reason, that way it doesn't work. But that way it does. Okay. I'm proud of that. Oh, it's also touching on there, so that's pretty good. Let's take these out. Remove the key. It's a little bit of a tight fit, but there's my custom cut key. Slots right into there. And does in fact turn. So I'm going to go install this back in the car, and tomorrow I will wire it up. Okay, so it is the next day, and it has horribly snowed. It was snowing when I was working on the car yesterday at 10 p.m., and now it's way deeper. Luckily, the car is under a tarp, so I can get at the ignition system. There we go. And now, I can get in the car. No need to shovel it off. Okay, here's my setup. It's very easy setup. There's my key milled, basically. And then, if you put it in just right, it will actually turn. Here, I'll put it in. You kind of got to move it up and down to get it in, but now it's in. It turns very nicely. Hey, what do my lights look like? Can I even see them? No. Okay, well, that works very nicely. Now what I'm going to do is remove the speedometer and put in, and just take the wires from this really broken switch, put them to there, and see if it will work. And if it doesn't work, then that's a problem. I gotta go wire tracing, which I hate doing. Okay, now I have removed the speedometer from the car. It is currently sitting right here, being very carefully taken care of. And I have removed the ignition switch. I'm going to wind up putting this wiper switch there. But I've removed the ignition switch, and I can show you if it will work. So, what I'm going to do, these are the 2 ignition things. I'm going to touch them together. Oh, look at that! And here's the fuel pump. Here, let me turn the wipers off. I left them on last night. Listen to the fuel pump. Okay, that's my issue. I'm going to wire it up to here. I'm going to remove this again. It's just screwed in place with 2 screws. It does turn very nicely. Yeah, so I'm just going to wire this up into these screws at the back there. Remove this first, wire it up, put this back in, see if it will work, and put the gauge back in. Unfortunately, I can't drive the car. I'm sitting under a tarp right now, and this is the snow height. It's actually to the bottom of the door of the Morris Minor right now. So it's over a foot already. And I hate snow. I hate snow more than anything. I just can't stand it. But at least Morrises are pretty capable in the snow. But I don't think they'd be capable in this. This is really bad. But next time you will see right now is in the interior of the car. Okay, now I have the thing all wired up in the car, as you can see right there. Wired up. Now I have the key. I'm going to put it in. Oh, as you can see, I removed that horrible switch. I did that before, and you probably saw it before, but I'm just showing. I removed that horrible switch that is quite broken. I'll show that at the end of the video. But, okay, key goes in. Key turns. Let's try the wipers. Okay. Key removed. I am going to remove the tarp off the back of the car, start it up so the exhaust can go out, and I'm going to have this door open so I can easily get out if air starts to come in, if bad air, like tainted air starts to come in. I can show you how deep this snow has gotten. It is now really past the bottom of the door, and I'm wearing normal sneakers like an idiot. Okay, now down there, away from the snow, is the exhaust pipe. I am freezing now. This snow is so bad. Let's go in. Now, yesterday, the car would just crank and crank and crank and wouldn't start. Let's see if we can start the car.